Virgin. Bitch. Podcast. Inspiring women to overcome social stereotypes and share unique life experiences without fear of being defiantly different. Your hosts, Christopher and Heather. Let's talk, shall we?
Welcome to the year of the bitch. Continued. If you're just connecting with us for the first time this year, Heather and I, we're inviting women to reconsider the word bitch. It's a word that a lot of women don't have a comfortable relationship with. So what we've done, we've taken the word, broken it down in letter by letter, and put meaning to each of these letters, and hopefully also show that there is possibility, reason for growth in these words, in this word and in these letters as we move ahead. In episode 360 and 361, Heather and I describe the meaning of B.I.T.C.H. And in upcoming shows, including today, we will explore the real life application of betrayal, identity, trust, change, and healing. B.I.T.C.H. Today we have a special guest, a friend who introduces herself as a recovering perfectionist turned spiritual ninja and self-care revolutionary. She's a top-flight self-care coach and the founder of Courageous Self-Care, which supports high achievers to take inspired action while practicing effective strategic self-care. She's an author, speaker, entrepreneur, mother, and partner to an amazing husband. Hi, Paul. But today we're going to talk about her life arc in the context of B.I.T.C.H. Welcome back, Christina Marlett, to VIRGIN.BEAUTY.B.
Thank you so much.
It is such a pleasure having you. Now, I believe personally that everyone has a betrayal story, a personal heartache that they will never, ever forget. What do you think when you hear the word betrayal? What does that bring up for you?
Well, going right into my heart, let's just start right there. I think the betrayal that I experienced was that being someone who worked hard at school and got good grades, I felt assured that if I focused on intellect and gathering knowledge, that everything would work out. And I used to have a shirt that said think, and it had a brain neuron on it. And I thought, like, once my dad said to me, "You're always thinking, aren't you?" And I'm like, "Yes, I am." And I thought that was such a compliment. And then I learned that thinking isn't your best friend because probably the way I was doing it was way more over than anything else. And then I ended up with a shirt that said, "Don't think, don't think, don't think, don't think," over and over and over. So things got a little better. And then, so the betrayal felt like if I just worked hard enough on that one part of me, that it would all be good and success would be assured. And what I've learned since then, so I feel like I've moved past the betrayal, is actually when we are unified, when we connect and are cohesive with the mind, not just the mind doesn't get to drive the bus anymore in my brain, because it was so critical being a perfectionist. There was so much judgment, both outwardly, but mostly towards myself. And yeah, that was one big betrayal that, so now when I focus on being unified in mind and body and breath and soulful self, that feels whole. But the betrayal was like, if you focus on the mind, everything will be fine and you will feel whole. And that was certainly not the case. I felt lonely and empty and bewildered and dismayed a lot of the time and just mystified.
So the message becomes the betrayal, the message of, yes, this is the way that it is going to get you to where society thinks is successful. That's the betrayal.
Yes.
I think there's something to that too, to say, when we think, that society says if we think and we're thinking ahead and we're ahead of the game, that's how you're going to get ahead in life or be on the up and up of what's to come next. And I've just been thinking a lot about lately, in society, the way that we deem people either further or not as far ahead of each other, and just what an endless chase that is. So I really appreciate that was a really big betrayal for you, and then how it was internalized, to kind of like that consistent critic that kind of continues to betray what your full capacity is, no matter what that looks like for you individually.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And then just one other thing that's popping up is I didn't know this until maybe a decade ago that that quote from Marianne Williamson that our greatest fear is not being too small, but shining our light. But when we shine our light, we give others permission to do the same, paraphrased. And what I used to experience a lot of is people would say to me, "Oh, you're such a hard act to follow." And so for a long time, I just said, "Oh, I don't want to outshine the next person, so I better make myself smaller because I want them to feel good." And so there was the betrayal in the messaging that people can't handle their own feelings. Like for the longest time, I was protecting people from feeling their feelings and having their thoughts. And yeah, I remember being at an event and I just had this epiphany. I'm like, you know what? I'm charismatic. I'm not going to apologize for it anymore. If you happen to have to go after me, you're going to be able to grow and stretch into what you feel is your biggest. So I just said, I'm claiming my charisma.
That fits so perfectly, dovetails so perfectly into the next letter, I, which is identity, right? You were claiming and finding truly you without even knowing that you weren't you.
Yes.
The moment that you changed from think to don't think, your identity got shifted.
Yes, yes, that so happened. I was able to work through it and verbalize it in my first book, which was called How Ugly Awkward Dancing Changes Everything. And the tagline is live life with freedom, screw how it looks. Because for the longest time, it was all about how it looked. Like my image was so important to me as a teacher. That's what I started out with as a high school teacher. My image was everything. And then there was a lot of dismantling of that when I got into the world of personal growth and spiritual development. And yeah, my identity became it doesn't matter what it looks like on the outside, it's about what it feels like on the inside. And I really got to learn that when I trained as an embodiment coach, which was reducing the thoughts and coming into sensation and trusting that that is the divine speaking through.
Yeah, what a great, differentiation between image and identity. Because I think those two things get conflated so easily in a world where, your surface value is kind of what people originally perceive of you, at least from the onset, or perhaps what we believe, come to believe. But, you really have taken it down to say, this ever lasting need to perform for this image is not the real deal. The real deal is, how does it feel for me to walk through this life and for me to be proud of what I'm doing?
Totally. Yeah, that performing personality was rampant in me. It was all I knew for a long time.
Now, this other real you, this authentic you, when did you learn to actually trust it?
You always ask the best questions, Christopher. So, one moment pops into my mind, which is I'd been doing lots of work with mentors and coaches and attending, like I went all over North America for a few years, traveling most months, really actively seeking transformation and doing a lot of embodiment. And there was a day when we were traveling, we were at a resort in Montana, and we were all packed up, ready to go. I was in the car, and I said, you know what, 6-hour drive, let me just run back and use the washroom. We still have the keys. So I ran up, used the washroom, and then my body didn't go towards the door. It wanted to go into the kitchen. I'm like, what? what is this? And I went through the kitchen and for some reason, I just opened all the drawers. And in one of the drawers was my keys to the house and to the car. And I'm like, what? How did I know that? That's crazy. And even better yet, I trusted the instinct, the sensation, the intuition to go to the drawer. So ever since then, I've had so much more trust in what my body is saying. And I know that the mind 90+% of the time just loves to make up tricks and lies to keep you stuck where you are, because familiar equals safe. And that really indicated to me that, okay, I can trust what is coming through here.
Wow. I think that that's a huge piece of the puzzle because our ability to self trust is so quickly eroded by, the people that we care about their opinions, the people who uphold our relationships. And, with so much of women's experience over the centuries, although changing now, thankfully, with it being relational, right? That so much of our value is placed on who we are in relation to someone else. It really does give a great deal of power into the hands of someone other than yourself. So, to not only kind of peel back those layers into that authentic self that Christopher had said. And I know it's kind of a catchphrase terms right now, but I think that there's something so fundamentally beautiful that we're really diving into that more and more and more as a society, that it isn't about just our relations, but what is behind all of the things that other people expect of you before you get to any of that. And then learning to trust that inner core, right? That inner core that is almost your North Star.
Yeah, totally. And what I've learned from one of my mentors, who I just adore, Dr. Sue Morter, is that we have this um, column of energy that runs from overhead right down into the earth below us. It goes right through the core. It's called your Sushumna, or the central channel. It's made of light, and that is the truth of who you are. And the more you focus your mind on what it is to breathe up and down through that core channel, the more you learn who you really are. And the truth of who you are is that you are powerful, you are brilliant, you are magnificent, and you are the creator of your life in the best way possible. And everything is serving for your highest expansion.
I think at some level we know this. However, as a coach, and you talked to hundreds of women going through and men going through their process, is that the hardest leap to make, this trust of self?
Absolutely. Yeah, because people are brought up to think that your thoughts are true and to idolize the mind, and especially to idolize one side of the brain, the analytical part. That's how you do well in school. At least that's how I learned to do well. And the more you can memorize and repeat back, the better you'll do. That betrayal coming back. And so learning that, this is one of the core things that I work on with clients, is when you're getting guidance or when you hear something on the inside, if it has a negative tone to it, it's not true. It's the ego, it's the protective personality making stuff up, and you don't have to believe it. If it's neutral or positive, then yes, it's your intuition, it's your inner guidance, and you can trust that. And often it's uncomfortable. It's telling you to do things that make no sense. It's saying, okay, abandon this thing that you've built. And you're like, what? Part of my experience. So yeah, the trust is huge, and trusting that that is the truth. Like, it's so much easier to believe that you're a victim and that things happen to you and life is hard and you just have to survive. That's easy. Although going through it isn't that easy. It's uncomfortable, but it's much easier than taking the leap and trusting that the universe is a benevolent place and that you're meant to grow and expand.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad to hear, it's not just me, that a lot of your clients, it's that.
Yes.
um, I mean, so I think, like, at least for me and some of the conversations we've had with other people on this podcast that, truly have shaped me in many ways. There's that kind of tipping of the iceberg, shall we say, of when you start to tune out all the noise and you really start to look within and you start to really notice what aligning within really means. And, that transition of noticing into how am I going to kind of push out the noise more permanently and make the change, right? Make the change to live my authentic self and be able to speak in a way that honors that, that authentic self deserves to be here. It belongs. It has something to contribute. So, in your experience and also with your clients, what is that phase like that you've seen maybe personally or with them, where they've made this noticing, they have a clearer sense of where they want to head or what's important to them, and they're trying to not let old patterns get in the way?
Yes. So there are a few approaches around that. The one that I used to do was like focus on the issue, work really hard at it, see some results, keep working hard, and hopefully things will improve. But what I've shifted into now is there are just a few practices that if you do on a regular basis, you don't even have to like pour your attention into, in quotes, fixing a problem. You don't even have to focus on personal growth. It is more that I've noticed in my life, things just start to unfold. Like, wow, I didn't take that personally. And I didn't work hard at not taking it personally. It's because I've had this evolution from connecting with that authentic central channel, that core, and doing some specific practices around it that, oh my gosh, I didn't have to control that situation. Progress. So, um, we can tend to put our attention on, like Einstein has a quote that it's, if the definition of insanity is trying to, I'm paraphrasing again. If you think you're going to solve the problem with the same consciousness that it was created, that's the definition of insanity. And so if we're focusing on the outer world to make our changes, that's so hard. Like there's so much effort. It takes so long and it's frustrating, speaking from experience. But when we come into, again, unifying mind, body, and breath in ways that like it amplifies the process, and then you just have delightful surprises of, wow, this has changed. Like I was on a trip to Mexico with my family. My kids wanted to travel for years. So finally we made it happen, and they just didn't like it. And I thought they would love the place that I had chosen, and because I'd been there for some retreats, it's a really sacred and special place. There was no door to the bathroom, so that was hard for teenagers. There's this beautiful little boutique resort with open air bungalows. It was phenomenal. And so all week there was, complaining happening and victimy mindset, and I could just feel like, wow, a version of me a few years ago would have been devastated. And at the end of the week, my daughter said, oh, well, we survived the week. I'm like, what are you talking about? This was one of the best weeks of my life. So I didn't let their experience impact my enjoyment. And as a mom, oh my gosh, such a huge difference from how I would have shown up. Like I used to take everything personally, daggers in the heart all the time. But because of this new way of approaching things and not focusing on the problem, but just focusing on what's actually important, which is the authenticity, the identity, the breath through the body. Yeah, you just get these delightful surprises, and then you get to celebrate along the way.
I want to emphasize that everything we're talking about here, like when Heather and I came up with B.I.T.C.H, obviously it makes sense on paper. However, the more and more we speak with individuals, with people, these things unfold so, wow, like it blows my mind. They're just so in step with each other. Like what you're talking about is that change. And what you are alluding to is healing,
Yes.
right? The fact that you're not taking that personally, which you once would take personally and suffer from, You're no longer taking that in a space that hurts you. That's healing.
Yes.
I love it.
They do just flow like great use of the letters of B.I.T.C.H to, yeah, create this flow that we're experiencing. I love it too.
And that's the thing. The message we want to get out is there is an arc to this. There's a process to this. There's a logic to this, but there's a real life connection to this. And that is our message, is that through these steps, this word that has been so violating to women, through that word, that very word, you can find your liberation.
I love it.
That's what this is all about.
Mm-hmm. I have to share a funny little story if that's okay.
Yes.
One time I was at Costco and our membership is under Paul's name, and I had to check my Costco check to cash, and the guy said, "Well, where's the your husband who the account is under?" I said, "He's not here. I'm getting the groceries." He said, "I'm sorry, I can't charge it for you." And I was so annoyed. And unlike previous version of me, I said, I just kind of muttered under my breath, "Well, isn't that fantastic? I need my husband here to make a transaction." And I was bitchy about it, which is not really the way I usually show up. And he looked around and said, "You know what? Never mind. Let's just do it." I'm like, "What?" I have been
Oh.
taught that being kind and polite is the way to get things done. And I was just bitchy, and this is effective? Huh. Total reframing of all that I know.
The magic
Oh,
moment.
Yeah.
yes. We
Yeah.
love
But it
these
was
moments.
right. It was kind of more like, just being empowered and speaking my truth, not in a way that was an attack, but not hiding it either, which is what I would have done previously.
I think what you just said there is exactly the road that Christopher and I are going on this journey with re-examining or reimagining the word, because it's come to mean somebody who's mean or cruel or challenging without reason or hard to deal with, difficult to deal with. But the element of what you said in there, where you said, I wasn't saying it in a way that was cruel or trying to be mean, I was asserting my truth. I was asserting what I needed to say around this experience. And, I think that for a lot of women, especially, being able to tap into that assertiveness and say what you want to say when you need to say it, that's what we're building. That's what we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
I would add this caveat is that there are a lot of ways to look at what it is we're doing, rebranding, reclaiming, blah blah blah, those used words. I see it personally as more of an evolution of a word. It is taking on a new form from what it was, and it can be empowering in this new form that we're wanting to deliver and share with women.
Love that. Yeah, and that speaks to the change and the healing that that you've brought up and identified as these letters. And when I was thinking about change and healing before our time together, the big way that I'm focusing on change, like we're made of change, we're meant to change. And I drew a card for this year, and the card was letting go. And I've really been focusing on whenever I notice that I'm suffering, it's because there's an attachment there of the mind. And so I ask myself, okay, what am I attached to? And uh, when I identify it, I let it go, and that is healing. So it's the same thing that you're saying with this word. We can even look at, like, what are my attachments to the word bitch, and what am I willing to let go of to experience healing. So that's a powerful framework that is so effective, and you don't really even have to, do anything except to let it go. You just have to notice and bring it to your awareness, because previously it was in your subconscious where you can't do anything about it. But like the other day, I was feeling a little woe is me because the help from the family wasn't coming through, and I'm like, okay, what am I attached to here? Because I was grumbling while I was making dinner and tears were falling, and I'm like, okay, what am I attached to? Okay, well, I'm attached to that my kids aren't behaving like I did when I was that age, when I was, yeah, like the way that I functioned was how can I help? How can I, get love, basically. And for my kids, yay, they're not like that. So that's good. And when I realized that there was that attachment, I said, okay, so I'm just attached to my kids behaving how I think they should behave. I'm going to let that go because it's not serving any of us. And immediately, like, just envision opening up in the heart, releasing the tension that was there, and it becomes a non-issue. So that is healing. And I think that's valuable for our approach to your topic as well.
Just with you tapping in on that before we let you go here, we love to ask our guests a question, and whether this is like an initial response or maybe a more nuanced approach. But what does the word bitch mean to you?
Well, it used to mean something scary that I didn't want to be. And now with the reframing of it, I see it as the divine feminine coming through in a myriad of ways. And that is what makes it rich. It doesn't have to be one stereotypical way. Like, we're humans. We signed up for a big, rich life experience. That's why we have all the emotions and all the experiences. And I feel like the less we judge our experiences and the emotions, the more we benefit from getting to experience what life really is.
Can I put that on a plaque?
Right? Like, can we get t-shirts? I'm here for that.
Christina, you are a joy, absolute joy. We learned so much in our conversations with you. Thank you for taking the time to do this with us. This is very important for us and for our audience. And to have you be part of that, cherry on top. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure. I love talking about what I love talking about. So thank you for listening and asking great questions.
And you have been listening to
The Virgin
The Beauty
and the B.I.T.C.H in her year.
Yes. Come on back. Find us, like us, share us, bring your friends. Let's talk some more.